who's tougher on immigration? Let me tell you, George Bush and the Republican Congress, for the first 5 years, were in complete power, complete control. 4 million undocumented workers came into the country during that time. I'm not interested in using this as a political football. I want to solve the problem. Now, here's how we're going to solve the problem. We have to have strong border security. Everybody agrees on that. So we need to start putting the money into border security. And that doesn't necessarily mean building a wall. It does mean having better surveillance. It does mean better patrols. It means we have to monitor people who are coming in and overstaying their visas, because we don't keep track of them, and about 40% of undocumented workers don't come over the border, they just overstay their visas. So we've got to build a better system to prevent undocumented workers from coming here. Number two, we've got to hold employers accountable, because I don't blame somebody who is making $2 a day in Mexico or Central America and trying to feed their family, and they can make $50 a day here. I don't blame them for trying to come here. That doesn't mean they're not breaking the law, but I'm just saying I understand the impulse, and I think any parent would. But what I do blame are employers who don't want to pay a decent wage and say, you know what, we can exploit illegal workers, pay them substandard wages, not observe worker safety laws, not allow them to unionize, and undercut American labor standards. I do blame them. And we need to sanction them and go after them. Now, if we have a system where we are sanctioning employers, verifying employment status, some undocumented workers are going to go home. But some won't, because some are now rooted in our communities. They may have been here 5 years, 10 years. Children may have been born here who are U.S. citizens. And the notion that we're going to round all of them up and send them home is just not true. We're not going to do it because we don't have the resources to do it. We would have to use all of our law enforcement resources, all of them. We'd have to stop arresting people for auto theft and go round up the busboy or the guy in the meatpacking plant, which would not be a wise use of our law enforcement resources. We'd have to build new detention centers or let current prisoners, rapists, and murderers out of jail. We're not going to do that. We're not going to rip families apart, put them on buses. It is contrary to who we are as Americans for us to engage in that kind of practice. So what I've said is we've got to get our borders secure. We've got to take care of the employers. And when we've got that secure, then we have to say to those who are still here but don't have their papers right, you've broken the law, you need to be punished, you will pay a hefty fine, you need to learn English, you will go to the back of the line so that you can't jump ahead of people who did things legally, but we will give you a pathway to get out of the shadows and find a legal status so that now you no longer have to take substandard wages. You can join a union. You will no longer be undermining U.S. workers. And in that way, we can become a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants, and that should be our ultimate goal. One last point I want to make. We've got to fix our legal immigration system. Because right now, oftentimes it takes 10 years for somebody to try to get in this country legally, which pushes a lot of people into the illegal immigration system. And we've got to have lower fees to be naturalized, because right now we're making it very difficult for hardworking but poor people to be citizens, much easier for wealthy people, even if they're not hardworking, to be citizens. And that's not fair. We've got to have a fair system of immigration, and that is something I intend to try to achieve within my first term as President of the United States. Okay, I've got time for one more question. Right here.